5, 3, 2, 1.
The football gods are always on the Bears' shoulders.
We're going to take the North and never give it back.
Today on the Bears Nation podcast.
Here goes Fields. Can he get in? Yes, he can.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's your hosts, Kevin Lapka.
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
Phenomenally good.
And Jake Hassan.
There's a new sheriff in town.
The best in the city of Chicago.
This town of Chicago, one of the best sports towns and best fans in the country. They deserve better.
How about that? New season, new open. It is the Bears Nation podcast. It is Wednesday, September 7th, the year of our Lord 2022. We are 24 hours away from the kickoff of the new NFL season. We're a couple days away from the start of the Bears season. But first and foremost, it is the last time for the next 6-ish months, give or take, that Bears Nation podcast will A, be once a week, back to 2 episodes a week starting on Monday, starting next week, and B, not the last time, but less often that will be remote. We debuted the studio a little bit a couple weeks ago. Kevin Lapka said, you know what? Let me make some tweaks. Let me move a couple things. We'll get it ready for the start of the season. And I got the word today. All right, we're going to be ready to rock and roll starting on Monday, starting with our recap episode of the upcoming 49ers game, who the Bears will, of course, host at Soldier Field. So we are ready to go. It is a new season. It is a new Bears. It is a new era. And it's a new season of Bears Nation podcast. Got some awesome stuff coming up soon that we're very excited about. Not just the studio, not just the twice a week, which we've been doing, but we know you guys are all excited about. It's going to be great. It is awesome. And I just want to, before introducing a man you all know very well, a man you are all very familiar with, I need to give props to Kevin Lapka for the last couple months. I've been in and out this offseason. I've parachuted in for an episode here, an episode there. We've taken some episodes off. Kevin has done an absolutely phenomenal job with our guy Kellen filling in for me as well. But Kevin Lapka absolutely crushed our interview, our being Bears Nation pods, of course, not me because I wasn't there, but Tom Thayer, awesome interview. Kevin absolutely crushed it, set it all up, working with Tom's schedule, working with his own schedule. Absolutely unbelievable. If you haven't yet, go listen to that while you still have time, while it's still fresh, before we get the season underway, before this episode goes out and it becomes even more stale. But go listen to it while you can. If you're listening to this now, go pause this. Unless you're a live viewer, then stay here. But we assume you've already watched it and listened to it if you're a live viewer. But if you are listening to this in podcast form and have not listened to the Tom Thayer interview with Kevin Lapka and our guy Kellen, go pause this. Go listen to that. Come back and listen to this again so we can do this 49ers preview for you. So, Kevin, this is to you. You've done an awesome job the last couple months. Awesome job. I'm very proud of you, buddy. Well done.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. And it's going down. Now, what was it? I have to know. Was that a Malort shot?
So, no. No.
Shot?
Look at this guy asking if it's Malort. It's clear. No, Malort's got a very brown, distinct brown hue. No, this is a clear glass, my friend. No, that was some tequila, which we will not give a brand out because sponsor us if you want us to name your brand. But Kevin, awesome job to you. Had to give you props, and now we will welcome you officially onto this episode after 3 minutes of my incoherent rambling.
You got me excited, man. I appreciate all the love. It's been a grind this summer, and I think we've tried to take this thing to the next level, and we hope all of the viewers and the people who follow this podcast, especially on all the social channels, are appreciating some of the content. And now it's go time, man. You just got me juiced up right there. You're talking about it's NFL season, twice a week, studio's coming. Like, it is football time. And I think about this so often. I'm like, for some reason, the NFL offseason, it's partially because we love the sport so much, and it's just, the number one sport in the country, but it just drags, man. Like, when you get to this point, you're like, wow, that was just like a really long time. So it just makes that feeling of week one that much sweeter, knowing we finally arrived. And we got a game to break down, Jake, because, I have a lot of things to say, and I think by the end of this episode, some people listening might be cheering a little bit harder on Sunday, knowing a little bit more about this matchup. So let's do it, man.
Yeah, and let's just get right into it. Bears host the 49ers on Sunday. And I'll admit it, I mean, Kevin's very thinly veiling that it's me. I'm one of these people. I was thinking about it today. I was thinking about the game because, obviously season starts tomorrow with an awesome game. I mean, Rams-Bills is like a great job by the NFL. Yeah. Great way to start the season on Thursday night. But I was thinking about this game, and, obviously everyone who's a regular on this viewership or listenership knows that I'm not the hopeless optimistic guy. I am not the just, boundless optimism. I try to keep a little bit of a lid on it and look at this team through rational goggles. And that makes me come off as negative Nancy sometimes, which is fine. That's a burden that I am happy to bear because somebody needs to balance out my good friend Kevin Lapka here. So I was thinking about it. And in the weeks leading up to this, as we've kind of a little bit talked about this game and the season the last couple of weeks, I've been like, I don't think they can win. This is, this is chalk it up as a loss. I believe in our season preview, I chalked this as a loss. I'm almost positive I did.
Yeah, I think you did.
And, then I was thinking about it today and I was like, am I even going to have anything to cheer about on Sunday? Like, am I going to just be a dumpster fire on Sunday? Like, I'm going to be hungover, driving back from Champaign. And I'm just going to be like, am I really? And then I was thinking about it and I was like, I think once those subtle notes of Jeff Joniak hit my eardrums for the first time, and as Tom Thayer hits my eardrums on this drive, I think I'm gonna get excited. I'll be like, you know what? Justin Fields year 2. You know what? Tevin Jenkins might actually be something. Okay, David Montgomery, year 1 of a new head coach. All right, these guys seem to be buying in. I think by the time we hit game time on Sunday, I'm going to be in. I'm going to be like, you know what? Fresh slate. And then that first fumble, that first interception, that first bad play that's so typical Bears, I'm going to be right back where I started.
And look, yeah, exactly. And it'll I think it'll happen, right? There's going to be growing pains with this team a little bit. They're a very young football team, but you're right about when you say turning on the radio and hearing the voice of Tom Thayer and Jeff Joniak, their voice, it screams Bears, it bleeds Bears. And that's what we said when we were talking to Tom last week. We're like, Tom, hearing your voice, it just like, I'm ready to go. Like the moment I hear Tom Thayer's voice, I just get electrified, and I don't care how bad the football team is. It just gets you ready to go. But Jake, there's also a difference between, kind of, we do this every year as Bears fans and as fans of every team. You're always going to get yourself relatively hyped up and optimistic for week 1 because it's week 1. Everyone's 0-0. Theoretically, everyone has the same equal chance to make the Super Bowl. And then after week 1, that changes, obviously. So everyone has a shot, and everyone, especially us delusional Bears fans who have to convince ourselves that it might be a different year after year, we look for things, right? And sometimes we kind of reach for things and we try to, sure. Maybe this can be, Shane M says, I'm at Wrigley right now. He's tuning in from Wrigley Field. We have
That's commitment. That is commitment. I respect the hell out of that. That's a wild
Cubs
move.
Baseball for you.
That's fair.
Respect to Shane M. But, there's a difference, Jake, between just looking for reasons to be excited about the team and legitimately having, reasons to be excited about the team and breaking it down and understanding that, maybe this team is actually worth a little bit of something and maybe they're going to surprise us a little bit on Sunday. And I think that's, the basis of what we're going to discuss today is, we've passed that point now of this is just us as Bears fans and knowing what the national media is saying about, the team as a 3-win team, and the power rankings have all come out this week and the Bears are consistently in the 30s. And we're just delusional fans who are thinking they can pull off a miracle upset in week 1, just like the Jags did to, the Colts last year. Right. And it's beyond that for me. We're at a point where I can look through this breakdown that we're about to do in the next hour, and I can convince myself entirely objectively that this football team can win the game on Sunday. And we'll wait to our predictions to see, if we actually predict them to win and what the score will be. That'll be at the very end of the episode. But Jake, the developments for not just the Bears too, for the 49ers in the past week and the past months throughout all of training camp have made this to me a more winnable game than, when we first broke it down when the schedule came out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot's changed. A lot has, and like you said, I think that I'm open to having my mind changed. But I mean, so let's do this first. So we're going to break down this game. Injury reports, and there was big news today about the 49ers side of this. George Kittle didn't practice today. Now, granted, It's Wednesday, got a ton of time. He could be a limited participant the next 2 days and probably still play. He might even be able to be a limited participant on Friday and still play. But obviously, the biggest part of this is George Kittle's the top 2 tight end in the league. You have Trey Lance, who is in his first season. It's similar to Justin Fields, same situation. Fine. But is in the same situation where full-time starter, finally. Nobody, I mean, yeah, the Jimmy G shadow is like there, but it doesn't seem like the 49ers are very inclined to play him, especially in the first week. But that's a top 3 tight end who's a huge receiving threat, who's a huge end zone threat, and also is a really good blocking tight end too. And the 49ers, we know how much they like to run the ball. And granted, Elijah Mitchell has a lot of receiving capabilities too. He's not just a first or second down back, but for as much as the 49ers like to run the ball, to lose Kittle, if they lose Kittle, if he doesn't play, that's huge. I mean, that has a huge impact on this game just from an all-around offensive standpoint.
He is their best offensive player. And I know there's going to be people who hear that and are angry at that because of how good Deebo Samuel is. But George Kittle, when healthy, is in the tier 1 of tight ends. Deebo Samuel is not in the tier 1 or 2, in my opinion, of wide receivers. I think he's a tier 3 wide receiver. But I'm taking DK Metcalf above Deebo Samuel. Give me Keenan Allen above Deebo Samuel. Give me I appreciate Deebo Samuel. Well, I'm just listening, guys. Like, obviously, the tier 1 guys who are the no doubters, Justin Jeffersons, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, that's not even, a question for me. Like, Deebo Samuel has value as a fantasy wide receiver, but you also have to remember, like, Deebo Samuel hasn't been doing this year after year after year. Like, it was 1 year for Deebo Samuel that was really, really good. And if he replicates that, then I'm willing to put him in the tier 2 and maybe tier 1 category if he's good enough. But at this moment, just because of George Kittle being as good as he is at his position and as versatile and as unique as a tight end as he is, and, almost sort of a game-breaking player when he's at his best, he is their best offensive player when entirely healthy. But the problem is, guy can't stay healthy. He didn't stay healthy last year, and he's not healthy for week 1 potentially. And they said, Shanahan, said that this was a surprise, that they weren't expecting this injury news. And to hear that George Kittle was going to be questionable to play, that was a surprise to them. And that's never a good thing because you have now game planned for this game for weeks now, for months, right? I mean, you've had months to game plan for week 1 against the Chicago Bears. And if for the past, 2 to 3 months, you had the expectation that George Kittle was going to be your primary pass catcher in that game, and all of a sudden it's now Wednesday and you have an update from the training staff that he might not be ready to play, that throws a wrench in your game plan. And the thing is, like, Trey Lance is going to need all the help he can get. He is essentially a rookie playing his first game against a very good defense, against, in a stadium that's going to be very loud. Week 1, it always is at Soldier Field, and I'll get to more of that later. But Trey Lance is going to need all the help he can get. George Kittle is a safety blanket and is arguably the biggest positional mismatch on the field as a tight end going up against a linebacker for as good as he is. So if they don't have that, like, I know we're kind of still playing the speculation game here. And if there's someone who's listening to this on Sunday morning and he's listed active, then I'm sorry. But if they don't have him, like, it does move the needle for me. It does move the needle for me as far as how I evaluate this game. Does it for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's how we started. And this is how this impacts this game. Especially because also, like, the 49ers now, this is going to be, if Kittle doesn't play, this is the third starting player on offense or defense that they're not going to have, that they are going to be missing. One of the third impact player that they're going to be missing, because as we all know, they put Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson on IR. And those are 2 of your starters there, who are, like, you expect to have. I mean, especially Ward is huge to lose. So, the 49ers, I still think they are a good team, and they're a playoff team, and a team that, if they hit their ceiling, could be Super Bowl contenders. But I mean, if they lose Kittle, that's 3 pretty big blows to this team in a game at Soldier Field where, first-year head coach, second-year quarterback who is going to make a jump. We talk about second-year jumps for all quarterbacks, but the jump that we expect for Justin Fields compared to a Davis Mills, who I think is a fine player, compared to a Trevor Lawrence, like, I mean, Trevor Lawrence we still expect to be pretty good, but like, let's just say Davis Mills. Like, there's a pretty big gap there. Like, we expect the jump for Justin Fields with a consistent offensive line, we hope, and more offensive weapons, we hope. At least Cole Kmet really can't get any worse than he has been the last couple of years. And, if Felix Jones Jr. doesn't play, but Equinome St. Brown and Byron Pringle, if he plays. Okay, this is a bad point. But my point being that, like,
go there yet.
the jump that we hope for Justin Fields is bigger and more towards that star level than a guy like Davis Mills, who is more in the bottom end of that, like, average tier 2. Okay, maybe he can be above average. Like, we're expecting a bigger jump for Justin Fields. And now for this new first-year head coach, too, who has built this hits philosophy and hustle philosophy and, 100% effort 100% of the time, the Bears are going to come out hard and going to come out breakneck speed, and they're going to want to prove something. And I think that does mean something in front of a home crowd. If you're in San Francisco and, the 49ers kick you in the teeth at home, then that philosophy is going to go away pretty quick, and you're going to get sloppy pretty quick. But at home in a field where, like, now we know this Arlington Heights thing is probably going to happen, more likely than not. Like, it's probably 85% going to happen, 90% going to happen, if not higher than that. I mean, fans are going to start going to Soldier Field. It's the home opener. Like you said, Kevin, season opener, everybody's 0-0. Hope is boundless in this scenario until, the losses start to pile up in the way that some of us expect them to. So, I mean, I think the Bears, there's a path for them to maybe not win the game, but make it a close game and make it more like last year's game than we think.
There is a path to them coming out and absolutely punching them in the mouth in the first half. And I think that's what will happen. And you talk about, the impact of playing at home and how that happens. And really, like, because it's the first game of the season and you have 4 months as a fan, as a, season ticket holder to ponder whether you're going to buy a ticket to this game or go to this game. And you look at, what the Bears have pushed, the narrative that has been pushed for this team the past 4 months, you can't help but get excited. Like, they've pushed a team that's going to, have energy. And you saw it. It wasn't just all talk. Like, we saw this in the preseason. This is going to be a football team that at the very least is going to be entertaining and fun to watch. And I don't mean fun because they're going to be dancing on the sidelines or doing, like, crazy celebrations. Like, they're going to be fun because, number one, winning is fun. I think they're going to win more this year. But also, like, you enjoy, as a spectator of the sport, watching people play hard. And when you see guys who are lazy to make tackles or giving up on plays like some of the offensive skill players did for the team last year, that's not an enjoyable thing to watch, whether you're winning or losing. This is going to be a team that is going to be entertaining. And we've pushed this narrative that we're going to hustle hard and the team is ready to go and you have the second-year quarterback. Like, the fans are going to be ready to go. This team is going to be ready to play. And for people who believe that those things don't matter, first of all, they do. Like, this is going to be a sold-out crowd at Soldier Field. And if you think about it, when was the last time the Bears, if you can remember, I'll ask you, when was the last time the Bears played a noon kickoff at home? I'll see if you remember it. Do you remember the last time the Bears played at noon at home week 1? Because we've been caught up in the prime time. Yeah, we've been caught up in the prime time thing. Last year against the Rams.
Home week 1. Right, so it wasn't last year. The way you're phrasing it makes me think it wasn't the year before.
It wasn't.
Because what was the year before? Because the year before was
Detroit.
Because year before was yes, I remember that game. Yeah, the Anthony
Miller game. Yes.
So the year before. So was it 3 years ago?
It was 5 years ago.
3 years.
So it was 2017.
Holy hell!
So it's been, the Bears haven't had a noon kick.
So that was
week 1 since 2017.
Was that? So that's
Mike Glennon.
Yeah, I was going to say. So that was first year Mike Glennon, final year John Fox. Had to, yeah. Yep. Final year John Fox, first year Mike Glennon. Wow.
So the reason why I'm bringing this up is to provide a little bit of context about how, week 1 is the 1 week out of all, 18 weeks there are now, 17 regular season games, 18 weeks when you include the bye, that, like, anything goes. It's the most unpredictable week. It's the hardest week to bet. Anything can happen, right? And factors like a sold-out crowd are probably have the most effect week 1 than any other week in the season. So if you remember in 2017, the Chicago Bears trotted out Mike Glennon. The team was projected to be the worst team in the NFL. They had just drafted Mitch Trubisky. Mike Glennon was the placeholder. It was one of the worst signings in history. Everyone's like, this team's going to go 3-13. And they draw week 1, the reigning NFC champion Atlanta Falcons. And everyone's like, oh my God, of course they have to play The Atlanta Falcons, who just blew a 28-3 Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, and we're going to get destroyed. And I remember that game, and I remember that because I remember thinking, are people even going to show up to that game in 2017? Is anyone going to really go out to Soldier Field to watch Mike Lennon play against the reigning NFC champion Atlanta Falcons, who should beat you by 30 points? And I remember that stadium was as filled as I've ever seen it be. And Tariq Cohen makes multiple, great plays. And then on the very last drive of the game, the Bears are down 23-17. Mike Lennon throws a little out route to Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard drops the ball on what would have been the game-winning touchdown, and the Bears lose 23-17 in a game that they should have won. That team should have won the game. Yeah, the Falcons ended up not being as good that year, but that was a game the Bears should have won, and they trotted out Mike Glennon. We're supposed to win 3 games, and they were playing the reigning NFC champions, and that stadium was ready to go. So if you talk about
that was also because we as Bears fans convinced ourselves that Mike Glennon was actually going to be good.
See, exactly. And that's why I said at the beginning of the show, we'll convince ourselves of anything. But now, we have legitimate reasons to believe that Justin Fields is going to be good enough to actually win you this game, and they actually could beat this team. And so I look, and Tom Thayer said it last week. He said, if you're going to the game, be freaking loud, be ready to go. The fans are going to get all amped up. So, before we get into the actual positional breakdowns, I just wanted to mention how those things play a factor.
Well, I think there is a factor, and I think there is a point to that because Bears fans are not, you turn on, 670 The Score, you turn on a Bears podcast, you turn on this podcast. We've been saying all offseason, everybody has that, especially since the preseason, oh, wow, this offense actually looks different. Oh, this offense actually has Justin Fields on the move. Oh, this offense actually has Justin Fields, not just bailing out and throwing, hoping Darnell Mooney's down there somewhere, using Cole Kmet, and using the running backs and using guys in motion and switching things up and letting Justin Fields use his legs if he has to, not because he has to, and picking his spots. So that also goes to the play. There's a lot of faith in Luke Getsy too. And, coming in, it was okay, first year play caller. We don't really know what we're getting into. Okay. Yeah. He comes from Green Bay. Great. But how much of that was LaFleur? How much of that was him? Also helps to have a 2-time MVP in back-to-back years. Okay. And now the preseason comes and it's okay, might be onto something here. Okay. Justin Fields starting to look a little bit better. Starting to look a little bit more confident. You open The Athletic or you open Bleacher Report or you open ESPN. It's okay, Justin Fields looks better. Okay. He looks more confident. Okay. He bulked up a little bit. Okay. He's got twist dreads now. Okay. That's huge. Love that. And on and on and on and on and on. And it's these little things start to stack up where, look, I'm still very much that the Bears ceiling is about, 500. Obviously there isn't 500 teams or records anymore because, well, I guess you tie, but you know what I mean? I still think this is about an 8-win team, maybe at their peak 9 or 10. If they peak early and keep that peak going, maybe you can get to 10 wins. I still stand by that. I expect 7 or 8, but like you said, there are things to actually get excited about because this time last year, we were we're going to know game 1. We're going to know game 1 based on the game plan, based on what's happening, and the only highlights are going to be with the sparks that Justin Fields is able to provide us when he breaks through and transcends the talent around him. Now, the talent still isn't admittedly very good. Actually, it might be worse because based on what you've subtracted from defense and based on what you're relying on offense. Yeah, Darnell Mooney's great. This show us to expect him to have a 1,000+ yard season. We expect a better season and a step forward from Cole Kmet. We love David Montgomery. Obviously, we wax poetic about Justin Fields on and on and on every week about this on this show. Offensive line is still a problem. You're starting 2 guys in Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins who really have never done it, and a guy in Larry Borum who's in his 2nd year. And oh, by the way, you're not even sure your starting center who you signed in the offseason from the Packers is going to be ready to go. So
he'll be ready. He's been practicing this week. I think he's ready to go.
Right. Well, there is still, granted, yeah, he's not on the injury report. Looks on track. But that being said, didn't play all preseason, didn't get a lot of practice reps. Oh, and he's the center, and he's in charge of this, basically. Yeah. So that's tough. So yeah, there's things that we're going to be excited about. Obviously, I'm playing my part on the show and trying to temper expectations a little bit. Hey, there's still some issues. But as that guy, I'm telling you, yeah, there's things to be excited about. Yeah, Justin Fields could be really awesome. And if he's awesome against the 49ers, who can't he be awesome against? The 49ers are going to have one of the best defenses in the league. They have one of the best defensive lines in the league.
I don't know anymore.
Granted, they are missing 2 starters, sure, but
Right.
this is still a San Francisco 49ers defense that is coached by Kyle Shanahan, who puts it together and who still year in and year out has a top tier defensive unit. And oh, by the way, that guy Bosa's still there. He's pretty good. So there are things that if the Bears perform well, and then you have to perform well the whole game. But if they could put together a couple series where they look good before Bosa blows something up, like he's definitely going to because he's that good, okay, I'll take it and I'll chalk that up as a moral victory because it's week 1. You can do that.
Absolutely. You're absolutely, yeah, you do have the flexibility to do that. And look, the other thing too is there's going to be people who, when they break down this game or when they evaluate this game, and I think I've already seen it from national outlets who are like, well, they're trying out a first-year head coach out there. So that means they can't win. There is literally zero legitimacy to the argument that having a first-year head coach deters your chance of winning in week 1. If there's literally there's no evidence to prove that. If you guys remember the week 1 of 2018, when one Matthew Nagy was in his first year as a head coach against the Packers on Thursday Night Football to open the season, and they or was that Sunday Night Football the year? I think that was Sunday Night Football to open the season. And obviously, they would have won that game if Aaron Rodgers wasn't off a Percocet. Like there's zero legitimacy to the argument that, well, because this team has a first-year head coach means they cannot win. If anything, it could be better. I'd rather have a first-year head coach who's going to inspire the team instead of trying out there a 4 or 5-year head coach who has who's lost complete control of the locker room and the team has no faith in him, right? I mean, that's what we were seeing.
I'll put it this way
with Matt Nagy.
I'm way more confident that a play like the Cooper Kupp play from last season's opener against the Rams, I'm way more confident that a play like that will not happen this time than I was. Like,
there you go.
Let's be honest, it was the final year of Matt Nagy. We kind of we lost faith in him. When that play happened and nobody touches Cooper Kupp down and he just trots into the end zone, none of us were really surprised. Yeah, we were pissed, but nobody was really surprised. If that happened for this team with this head coach, I'd be very surprised. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. No. I completely agree. I mean, we've seen this team already be more disciplined, just be a smarter football team. And those things go a long way. I mean, those things are at times, if not always, more important than, the personnel you have on the field, the talent you have on the field, and the X's and O's, right? Like if you're playing hard, if you're playing smart, if you're, understanding what you're seeing across the field, then smart football teams win just as much as really talented, dumb football teams. Like if you're smart and less talented, but you're just a smart football team, and then you're a team that's dumb but you're really talented, I think those two teams have arguably the same chance of reaching the goals that they want to reach. But let's break down the game.
I mean, look, the Raiders made it last year. That's the perfect point for that.
Right. The Raiders made it last year. I mean, God.
Speaking of dumb teams.
What the hell even happened to them last year? They should make a documentary off of their season.
I mean, it helps when you have a top 10 quarterback.
Oh, that's an argument for a different day. Yeah, top 12 might be acceptable. Before we get into the breakdown real quick, I do want to mention about this Bermuda turf and how it was requested by Matt Eberflus that they change the turf at Soldier Field. Obviously, everyone remembers what Carlos Santos said, how he had to go practice at a shitty field in Florida.
Or how it looked in the preseason.
Yeah, like your eyes do not deceive you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. But I just want to read something here. This was from an article, and it's so the Bears previously had been using Kentucky bluegrass, and now they are changing to Bermuda turf. And this was a quote from the article here. Quote: "Summer is the most stressful time for Kentucky bluegrass. It's never really at a weaker point than it is at the end of the summer," said ergonomist and Carolina Green Corp Field Maintenance Division Vice President and Superintendent Chris Ecton. He said, quote, "Bermuda grass is a warm season grass, so it just went through its favorite time of the year. It's never going to be stronger than it is right now." Also adding that it's so much tighter, the plant and the footing. And he said players are going to feel that difference. It's going to be a faster game, I think you'll see on this turf. We would have gone to this years ago if we felt we could grow it longer into the fall season. So clearly, I know we're on turf talk here, but it's clearly better. And you seem upset that we're talking about turf.
How do you get to the point where we would have done this years ago if we thought? what changed in the last 3 years? Like what has changed in grass that now you're like, oh yeah, now we can do it all of a sudden? What has changed in the world of grass in the last couple of years? What are we doing here?
And that the fundamental. Like I think it's because it was always under like the discretion of the stadium. Like on what grass they want to continually use. So that's like their fault. But now Matt Eberflus, like they would have kept going with the Kentucky bluegrass if it went for Matt Eberflus, saying, hey, I want the Bermuda grass. And the reason why he requested the Bermuda grass is because apparently that's the grass that they used on the practice fields in Indianapolis. Who is familiar with it? But like there is like, if you remember some of these like games at Soldier Field, like it was bad, man. Like not just like the visuals, but like guys slipping, losing their footing,
saying like, yeah, we're afraid to play on this field because I'm afraid I'm going to blow my freaking knee out. You had guys on previous teams. Antrell Roll, famously, he was like, yeah, this field he's like, this field sucks. And like, I have to play 8 games on it. And I think I'm going to end my career here because my knees are going to be destroyed. Or how does it take? It's this stupid. I'm back out. Bears are going to lose by 50.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the teams. It's got nothing to do with
just
the
like this.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
The incompetence of this organization to do the bare fucking minimum. It's grass. What are we doing here? If you can clip that. It's grass. Get the best stuff for your players. How we like revamp the practice facility. Hey, maybe we shouldn't have our players drive an hour away from their homes and from their own beds and shove them in dorms together that are meant for 18-year-olds. Yeah, let's stop doing that and treat them like adults of a multi-billion-dollar franchise and maybe spend some of that on our organization. Let's do that for the field too. What are we doing here?
The Bears.
That was an all-time Jake
most
Hasan.
valuable
I'm going to
franchise.
say that.
That was good. That was good. It's grass. It's fucking grass. You can't figure out the fucking grass situation? Oh, God. But, anyway.
And they wonder why players don't want to play for this organization in this city. People wonder why free agents don't sign here.
Just
grass, making them stay in shitty dorms. Those are your top 2. You got one. That was unintentional, but I respect that by my subconscious. You got one. Take care of the other. 0. Then maybe people want to play here. Jesus.
There's going to be a direct correlation between new grass and the Bears signing like the top 3 free agents next offseason.
If they don't think their knees are going to blow out, maybe.
Saquon Barkley tore his ACL on Soldier Field.
Yes. Yeah. My point exactly.
Let's blame it on the grass.
Was it Antrell Roll or who was it? It had to be 4 or 5 years ago. They like slipped on like the tarp or something on the sideline because they had to put tarp down instead because the grass was so crappy and in such bad shape. And somebody like slipped and hurt themselves. I think it might have been Antrell Roll. Might have been somebody else, honestly. Like this has been happening for years with the Bears. Now I'm upset again, all over again about the incompetence of this stupid organization. God.
All right, now it's my role to make you less concerned about the organization. All right, let's get into this game. All right, let's break this game down. Bears Niners. All right, it's you got Fields versus Lance. I guess 33 minutes later, we're finally talking about the game. Well, we talked about it a little bit, but now we're talking about the important things. And let's start with this, Jake, because this to me is the most important factor of the game. And I guarantee 99.9% analysts are going to have the Bears lose and yada, yada, yada. And to me, it just makes no sense. Okay. And the reason why it makes no sense is the guy playing for the San Francisco 49ers is essentially a rookie making his first start who did not have a good preseason. He maybe had 2 good deep balls that he threw all preseason. The rest of his preseason was a struggle. And that was admitted by some of the coaching staff. And then coincidentally, a week ago, the 49ers just conveniently restructure the contract of Jimmy Garoppolo, keeping him in San Francisco. And I said this I appeared on a 49ers podcast. They invited me on their little 49ers podcast. I appeared on it and I said to them this. I said, I know this. We know this exact situation. This exact situation is almost completely parallel to the Chicago Bears in 2020 with Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, where Mitch was named the starter. And now there's differences. There are differences. Mitch didn't know he was going to be the starter. Lance has known he was going to be the starter, but the comparisons and the similarities are there. And it's mainly this. Trey Lance now, when he is going to play football on Sunday and for the rest of the weeks on, knows in the back of his mind two things. One, he knows that the full support and confidence of the organization is not behind him. And that has been reinforced not only by the contract restructure of Jimmy Garoppolo, but also the reports in the past week that Kyle Shanahan didn't even want to draft Trey Lance. And then the fact that he wasn't named a captain this past week. He was 7th among voting by the players to be a captain. And then when asked why he wasn't named a captain, Kyle Shanahan goes, well, Trey's essentially a rookie, and we don't give the captain badge out to rookies. Like, I know it's just coach speak and it's talk, but we've seen this before. And if I'm Trey Lance, who also has said that he was annoyed by the restructuring contract of Jimmy Garoppolo, he knows in the back of his head that the full confidence in the organization is not in him. So so he has to play a game now in a very loud stadium against a team that's going to be ready to go, knowing if he makes one mistake, it could lead to him seeing the bench. It could. If he makes if things go very poorly for Trey Lance in the first half of the game, but the 49ers are still in it, I would not be surprised if the 49ers bench Trey Lance. I would not be surprised at all. And people who think I'm crazy, look at what the Chicago Bears did in 2020 with Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. Mitch was not playing bad football for the first 2 weeks, but the moment he made a mistake in week 3, it was, you are yanked, and we're going to go with the guy that we're more comfortable with. And there's no doubt in my mind, Kyle Shanahan is more comfortable with Jimmy Garoppolo than he is with Trey Lance.
Is there a difference in... So I don't disagree with everything you said. I do think like the 49ers keeping Jimmy G was intentional. I do think part of it was just supply and demand. Like, trust me, I can't believe that the Seahawks didn't at least make a call and that they're truly okay with trotting out Geno Smith and Drew Lock. Like, I find that hard to believe. I find it easier to believe that the 49ers are like, no, we're not giving them away in division. Like, what are you, nuts? Like, but also like, I mean, there weren't a lot of options for, like, once Baker Mayfield went to Carolina, there weren't a lot of options for Jimmy G to go to necessarily. Right. So what were the Jets going to do? Trade for him for 4 weeks until Zach Wilson got back? Like, you know, so I do think, I don't completely disagree with what you're saying. I think there is a little bit of truth to that. I think Trey Lance's statements after and him not being a captain, I think speak louder than that. I do think it's a little different than the Bears situation in 2020 in that Matt Nagy was on the hot seat. And he knew it. And he knew that he had to do something, and he wasn't sure if, you know, he would have that year or not. And then it turned out that he did with Justin Fields, because that basically bought him another year, and him and Ryan Pace. Kyle Shanahan's been a playoff coach for the last however many years, was just in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So he's got some wiggle room here. Him and John Lynch have a very good relationship. I don't think there's as much of a drive or as much pressure for Kyle Shanahan to say, we got to yank Trey Lance. You go 0-1 against the Bears. Like, you can wave that off and say, okay, Trey's first start and however long as the true starter for once, and we're working through some things, blah, 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 blah. And the Bears, you know, just like we're saying now that the Bears are going to get up to play for Eberflus and at Soldier Field at home, the 49ers could easily say that too. And plus, it's week 1. I don't think they'd yank him. If they did yank him in the first half, I think like it'd be like somebody made a mistake somewhere. Like Kyle Shanahan's been possessed, or he has been taken over by because that would be most doomsday scenario. Like the nukes are on their way if Jimmy Garoppolo appears in this Bears game. But I get what you're saying, though. Like, maybe Trey Lance is – maybe in the more likely scenario, Trey Lance is like, all right, I got to go prove myself now. Because remember, even when he was drafted, they were quite, North Dakota State. Okay, he didn't play his senior year because of COVID even. We haven't seen him play football in almost 2 years. Then he gets hurt. Then he's in and out of the lineup, and then he's starting, and then he's not, and so on and so on and so on. So there's a path where Trey Lance is like, all right, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to show these guys that this is my team. I'm the starter. I can be a captain. I'm the franchise quarterback. I can lead this team to the playoffs and to a Super Bowl. And for all the things that we've said about the Bears and all their deficiencies and all the holes across the roster, Roquan Smith's still there. Jalen Johnson's still there. Jaquan Brisker looks like that dude. Like, there's still players on this team. If you force or try to like force something out of nothing, I'm not saying the Bears are a top 5 defense anymore, but they're still a unit that can make you pay for mistakes, especially with this Eberflus philosophy that we're seeing them buy into. If I see an Eddie Jackson interception this weekend, I won't be super surprised. Because is there not let's put ourselves in Trey Lance's shoes. Oh, Eddie Jackson's washed. Oh, he's cooked. All right, let me try and fit this window. Let me try and force a throw here. Eddie Jackson, give me that. Turnover, Fields flipped. That's that's something that I could totally see happening. Now, maybe that's the optimist in me, deep down, bleeding through, but that could happen. I mean, Trey Lance might be pressing to try and prove himself, and here we are, and that leads to a couple mistakes.
I think it will happen. I think you're absolutely right, and I think they will get an interception in this game. And going back to the parallels between the situations and stuff real quick, too, first of all, the Fox production crews are already, the moment Trey Lance makes a mistake, are already planning to pan that camera to Jimmy Garoppolo. They are. And the reason why is that
they're showing Jimmy G in the first in warm-ups. They're going to show him on the sideline right away. Away.
And look, the difference is, again, going back to the comparisons between 2020 Bears and 2022 Niners here, the 2020 Bears with Mitch and Foles, you really didn't know who the better quarterback was, right? I was really upset, or who was best for the team. I was really upset that they made that move to yank Trubisky in week 3, but at the same time, I had to keep an open mind that, well, maybe Foles is actually better for the team. Granted, you won the game, right? And then we started to think, well, maybe he is better for the team, right?
And I took the premature victory lap.
You took the premature victory lap and then lost 6 in a row. And I'll never forget that all-time great 6-week runs of Bears Nation podcast. But the difference is, Kyle Shanahan knows, and that team knows, they are a Super Bowl contending, NFC Championship contending team with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a fact. It's not, It's not, we could be. It's you were. And not 3 years ago. Yeah. Last year, it got you there. And you're looking for, and the reason you're starting Trey Lance is because you're looking for a guy who can not just take you there, but can have you win that big game.
Take you
right?
Next
and Jimmy
level,
Garoppolo has been proven to do that. But if his floor is starting to drop below Jimmy Garoppolo's floor, and he's not making the easy throws, and he's costing you games, you as an organization are thrust into a decision to go with the guy who is going to at least win you the winnable games, who is at least going to get you the floor that you've had the past 2 years. So I don't think he's going to get benched in the game. I would put a possibility of it as a 5% chance if things go 10% chance if things go really bad. But the bottom line is, you were talking about, well, maybe he has the mindset that I'm going to go out and prove him, right? I'm going to prove him wrong. First of all, we say that a lot, and 90% of the time it's the other way around. 90% of the time they try too hard and they make mistakes, and the great ones do that. Tom Brady did that. Aaron Rodgers, when you get your opportunity, you take it and you never look back, right? That's what the greats of all time do. We don't know if Trey Lance is a great of all time. We don't know if he's got the mindset to just go out there and be a cold stone killer. So for those reasons, I don't think you're going to see a confident Trey Lance, and you're going to need confidence to win this football game. You think Matt Eberflus is going to make life easy for Trey Lance from a schematical standpoint? Oh, hell no. He's going to send the freaking dogs. Roquan Smith, he's coming at your face, Trey. It's for that contract too. Be easy. Yes, he is. So, we just spent 10 minutes talking about it, but I think it's the most. I think it's the most important factor in the game. Is Trey Lance really ready to face this Bears defense?
And I think this is a good segue, because that's how you win this game. If you. We could go into the Bears side of this. It took us 45 minutes to get here, but the Bears, that's how you win this game. You got to force Trey Lance into an early turnover, into an early mistake, an early ugly throw, and try to get and hit him. Obviously, how often did we talk about last year? You got to hit the quarterback. You got to get after him. Robert Quinn keeps hitting him, quarterback hits or even sacks, and if you force him into an interception, or especially a bad one early, and he doesn't have time to build that confidence, granted, even if it is Deebo Samuel, even if Kittle does play, if you can force Trey Lance into an early mistake, let's pretend it's that scenario. Like I said, Trey Lance, all right, 49ers are starting to get a little movement. Elijah Mitchell's playing, he's healthy. He's got some good running lanes. George Kittle has made a couple first down catches. You're humming. All right, let's say you're at your own 40 or you're at the 50. Trey Lance decides to take a shot deep down the field. Deebo Samuel's down the field, and he's got Eddie Jackson in front of him. And I don't know, let's say Kyler Gordon or Jalen Johnson running behind him, trying to catch him up to him. Trey Lance goes, all right, I can fit this window. All right, I can hit him in stride, and he can, either truck Eddie Jackson and then either wobbly throw because he feels the pressure, or he tries to fit in too tight of a window. Somebody picks it off, and then you're going the other way. You flip the field, you flip that momentum, and he's like, oh crap, now I really got to make up for that because now I'm really behind. Like, if you can force an interception or some kind of turnover early, you're in the driver's seat. And obviously that might seem obvious to say, yeah, okay, yeah, no shit, Jake. You get an interception at a 0-0 game and flip the field. Oh, you're in the driver's seat. Yeah. But just from like we've been talking about, a pure perspective of getting in Trey Lance's head and shaking his confidence, especially in this system where you're hustle and getting after it and, really digging your shoes in. And as Matt Eberflus likes to say, putting your track shoes on. That's what's going to help. If you want to get back to getting these upset wins and winning games you're not supposed to, here's your game plan. Get to this essentially rookie quarterback who's in his first time as a full-time starter and make him think. If you make him think, how often did we say last year with Justin Fields, oh, he's got to think too much. He's processing too much. He's not just trusting his instincts. If you can make Trey Lance second guess himself, you're golden, especially with Eddie Jackson's ball instincts that we've been waiting to come to the surface again. It seems like he's bought in with Jaquan Brisker. We already mentioned him being that dude who looks like a budding star. Jalen Johnson, who is a ascending star as a corner. You have some players on the defensive side who can take advantage of those mental mistakes if you can force them on Trey Lance.
You're absolutely right. And let's start up front. That is how you win this game. Well, first of all, actually, and we have complete reason to go back and use that game as, a point of evidence for week one because it's week one and you have no other games. Like you can go back to 2021. Like typically if it's later in the season, like I'm not going to go back and see what they did to that team last year because it's a completely different team. But because, it's week one and that's all we have to look back at is what happened last year. Like they were in that game. They took the lead in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes to go. They ended up losing that game by 11. But Jake, they didn't get a single turnover in that game. Not one turnover in that game. And we'll say it every week. You're not winning the football game unless you get a turnover. And when you get the turnover margin, if you win the turnover margin, odds are you're winning the football game. So yeah, if they get a turnover, I feel really, really good about them winning the game because all it took last year was one turnover. If they got one turnover last year, they would have won that game. And you asked, how does that happen, right? Well, yeah, we talked about the skilled players in the secondary, which could be one of the strongest units on the team. And in my bold prediction, I got a secondary guy in there for one of them. But Jake, it starts up front. And I don't think people understand what the 49ers offensive line is. Jake, their interior offensive line, consisting of the right guard, center, and left guard, has started a combined 3 games in the NFL. 3 games. And so Aaron Banks, left guard out of Notre Dame, rookie, hasn't started a game in the NFL. Jake Brendel, their center, is the only veteran among the interior, and he has started 3 games his NFL career. The right guard is Spencer Burford, also a rookie. So all I've heard, Jake, the past week is, well, the Bears offensive line is going to get dominated by the admittedly phenomenal front four of the San Francisco 49ers. But nobody is talking about the fact that we have said on the show, and Kellen Garrison, who comes on the show all the time, says he believes that the Bears front four is actually one of the best units on the team. Why nobody is talking about the Bears front four versus the 49ers O-line on Sunday is mind-boggling because, again, we spent 12 minutes talking about Trey Lance, and you just spent 5 minutes or so talking about, well, how do you aggravate Trey Lance? How do you win this game? It's getting turnovers through the secondary. Well, if you get pressure on Trey Lance on every single play, and then you're playing fast, smart football to where you don't let him break the pocket. He's an extremely athletic quarterback. You don't let him get a ton of yards when he breaks the pocket, and you've got fast linebackers who should shore that up. But I mean, this is an opportunity for Justin Jones to absolutely eat, for Angelo Blackson to eat. And, Robert Quinn and Al-Qaeda Muhammad, they're going to have some troubles, or not troubles, but, they're facing good players on the edge in Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey. But that interior, like, you have to dominate. You have to dominate.
Good chance for these guys to prove themselves, too, that they're up to the task of replacing Larry Ogunjobi.
That's it. Well, right. You're right. That's a great point. And look, I think just in general, like, Matt Eberflus is going to be smart as well. I think he's going to blitz a lot. So. I think he's going to blitz a lot. And you really have the personnel to do it. Like I could see Nicholas Morrow using him as a blitzer a lot, and a lot of, I think what they're going to do I think we rarely saw in the past couple of years was, give me a safety blitz, give me a corner blitz. And Jaquan Brisker is a guy who is going to absolutely light you up, right? Jaquan Brisker, and he's a great tackler. If they run the ball and he's blitzing, he's going to make a great tackle on the runner. I just see this as a complete advantage for the Bears defensively versus the 49ers offense. And yeah, they have a good rushing attack. Elijah Mitchell ran for 137 yards on you last year, but I just think that they're gonna make life hard for Trey Lance, and I think it's gonna result in a turnover. And if I'll put it on paper right now, if the Bears get 2 turnovers in this game, they win the game, and they win it by at least 5 or 6 points, maybe even 7 if they get 2 turnovers. That would require the Bears to play mistake-free football on offense, though. So let's transition to that side of the ball because, that's where things get a little bit iffy when you talk about Joey Bosa versus a 5th-round rookie.
Yeah, so Bears keys to success here. And really, we could talk about this. Everybody's going to be watching the offensive line. You have a new center, brand new center who has barely played this offseason in this camp and in this preseason, Lucas Patrick, who we're high on and the hopes are high on. And it seemed like in the limited time he was working with Justin Fields, they had a good rapport and they had a good thing going. You also have, you have a 5th-round rookie who at left tackle, arguably, if not the most important position on the offensive line, maybe even on the offense outside of quarterback, 5th-round rookie, who, granted, he's looked good, and it looks like he's gotten better every week, and people are very high on him within the organization. Great. You also have at right guard a guy who was allegedly on the trade block to start camp and to start the offseason. And, oh, by the way, you have a guy at right tackle who you like, but hopefully he can stick. He's making another position change for the billionth time in his career, his young career. So that's the whole thing here. Can you keep Justin Fields upright and also safe and also alive in this game? Because if you can't, you're dead in the water before it even starts.
You're right. And look, they are not getting lucky as far as the front four that they're facing with, Samson Ebukam, Javon Kinlaw, Reek Armstead, and of course Nick Bosa. That's not a good draw. But you have to remember as well that I think Luke Getsy smart enough, and I think that this offensive coaching staff as a whole and Matt Eberflus are smart enough that they recognize that. Again, you've had 3 months to game plan for this game. You don't have 6 days. You have 3, 4, 5, 6, months. You know who you're playing week 1 around, I think, when does the official schedule come out? May or June? You have 3 or 4 months to know how to game plan against this front four. You're not going to see Justin Fields sit in the pocket a whole lot. You're just not. You're going to have very few times where he's sitting in the pocket, and when he does, they better be double teaming Nick Bosa. And I think they will. This is not Bears Browns week 3 last year.
You got to go 2 tight end sets. You have to.
Yeah, they're going to do a lot of it.
If not, you kept a fullback for a reason too.
Right. I mean, at the very least, if you're going to go, one-on-one, just chip him. Have Cole Kmet chip Nick Bosa at the line of scrimmage. Just do something, right? Because you didn't do anything against Myles Garrett last year. Just do something. But nonetheless, that game, I don't even want to think about it. But you're not going to see that. You're going to see Justin Fields on the move, play action, keep the defense on their toes. You're not going to allow that front four to physically dominate you. I think at times they're going to have to put their trust in their young offensive line and say, hey, we're going to keep him in the pocket here. Justin needs, 2 seconds to throw. You're going to have to make the block. And look, obviously, if you're going to want to be a winning football team, you're going to have protection that's good against, good defense like that. And that's going to be what's asked of them throughout the year. But in week 1 against this good defense with an offensive line that hasn't played as a unit a whole lot, it's going to be a lot of Justin Fields on the roll, on the rollouts, bootlegs. Just make it easy on the offensive line. And also, it's not just the fact that you're making it easy on the offensive line. It's the fact that, well, guess what? That's where Justin Fields is at his best. So he's got a real opportunity to carve up the Niners in that way. And if you remember last year's game, Justin rushed for 103 yards and a touchdown in that game. Obviously, most notably, the amazing
scramble
touchdown play that you'll see on Twitter 1,000 times before Sunday. But
you'll probably see it again before the game kicks off.
And they'll play it on Fox pregame, and everybody knows. But you'll see a lot of that, I think, and that's partially why if you're looking for fantasy advice and your quarterback is going down or something, Justin Fields is not a bad play in fantasy this week, but he's gonna rush the ball a lot. And also, sorry, I'm kind of rambling now, but the thing we didn't see at all last year that I completely forgot about, and I clamored for it every week, Jake, was a designed quarterback run. a designed run for Justin Fields. Use his strengths, utilize his strengths. And we didn't see it in the preseason. And I'm glad we didn't because it's the preseason. I don't want you doing a designed quarterback run in the preseason. But Darnell Mooney said the other day about the fact that we haven't seen anything. And he's ready. He's eager to just open up the playbook because they didn't show us shit in the preseason. Apparently, they're keeping all their tricks in the bag for week 1. And those tricks include design quarterback runs for Justin Fields, who is in that second tier of quarterback rushers just behind, probably just behind Lamar Jackson. And I think he's in the same tier as probably Jalen Hurts. So I want to see a lot of that.
No, that is 1,000% what we need to see. I also, and we talked about Luke Getsy a little bit. For me, what you need to see is just movement and involvement of everyone that is not Darnell Mooney. Whoever suits up. If Velus Jones Jr. suits up, which is in doubt because of course it is because it's the Bears. If Byron Pringle suits up, if Equinomia St. Brown, no matter who it is, need people to be moving. I can't have guys in one spot and then just go. Also can't have every single receiver going 7 yards and turning around and waiting. You can't have it. Need movement, just need different things happening. Show us some variety. And I mean, I especially been banging the table for this. Cole Kmet's your best option as a number 2 receiver on this offense until you see something from Velus Jones Jr., who I think has the next highest upside to be that. You got nothing. Utilize Cole Kmet, move him around, see what you have because he's your best chance. I like Byron Pringle, but I like him as a 3. I like Equinomia St. Brown, but I like him as a 3 at best. Like Cole Kmet is your next best option to be a true number 2 receiving threat on this offense. Move guys around, put them in the situations to succeed, try some different things. If I see a bubble screen, I swear to God, I'm going to scream. So just try different things. That's what you need to do. Try to at least make an honest to God effort to confuse opposing defenses. At least try to be different. At least try to stand out and don't just go back to your basics because you're scared or because, all right, well, this is what we got. Try to change it up. Try to incorporate some new ideas and then go from there and try to build off that. That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, if there's any time to try it, it's week 1, like this is the time to try it, why not? And again, like this is a very, very, very weak 49ers secondary. Very weak. Right. I mean, you talked about Jimmy Ward going on IR. Like that is a positional unit that you need to attack. And it feels like, Jake, we would do this a lot last year where, in all the years that we've done this podcast under, Matt Nagy and Trubisky and Dalton and Foles and whoever it may be, we would see the injury report come out or we would just know we were facing a team that you thought you could exploit defensively, specifically in the secondary, right? And we would always say, hey, you have an opportunity to attack them, right? And how often did that happen? How often did you ever see them attack a team, attack them down?
1% of the time.
And 1% of the time. And, part of the reason was you had a play caller who wasn't willing to do it. And part of the reason was you had a quarterback who, wasn't as capable as a downfield passer. But now you have both. You have a what we believe is a good play caller. And you also have a quarterback who has the potential to be the most accurate downfield QB in the entire league. So they would be foolish not to take their shots with the speed players they have and completely open up the secondary and do it very quickly. Like do it early. Like Justin Fields, like I trust Justin Fields on a deep ball of Darnell Mooney on the first drive, on the third play of the game. And that forever changes the way you can run the offense for the rest of the game if you hit on that play. Watch what the Rams did to the Chicago Bears week 1 last year. After they hit that play to Cooper Kupp in the first play of the game, we knew we were FUCKED for the rest of the game. Like we knew that it was over and the Rams just had complete control of what they wanted to do offensively because everything was open. And yeah, they won the Super Bowl and they were a really good freaking team. But if you open up that defense and you show them a little bit of something downfield early in the game, against that secondary, like I don't want to say things can get
and it's
ugly,
confidence for you too, because then you know you can do it. You know you're capable of it then too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there. There are of course, it's blatantly obvious to us, but I mean, what do we know? We just have this stupid show. All right, bold predictions time. Kevin, you said you had a couple, so I will hand it over to you first.
So the first one I have is Justin Fields is going to score 3 touchdowns, of any variety you want, 2 rushing,
Okay.
1 passing, 1 passing, or 2 passing, 1 rushing. Doesn't matter. But after the 3rd touchdown, it might be a dagger touchdown. And then on his fingers, he's going to count 8 on his fingers. He's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 representing the number of slots between where the 49ers drafted Trey Lance at number 3 and where the Bears drafted Justin Fields at number 11. And now it's worth noting that he was asked about this sort of thing today. And he said, he actually said this. He said, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad they didn't take me. He's happy he's in Chicago. He wants to be here. And I think
also the classic, I'm happy they didn't because now I get to face them and show them they're wrong.
Right. And I think he will do that. And how perfect would it be? And I say this because this is what Mahomes did to the Bears on Sunday Night Football. And I think that was 2019 maybe. And everyone was like, fuck. Now, and if Lance struggles, like Fields has the real opportunity to say, you guys made a really, really bad decision.
Especially if it comes off a turnover. That's Kevin. Usually I have something snarky to say after bold predictions. I like that a lot. I like that one a lot, actually. Because I could totally see it happening. I actually think I completely agree with you.
Wow, really?
If it happens, if it comes in that situation, a late game touchdown to either pad the Bears lead or a dagger or give them a lead, I completely can see that happening. 100%. Absolutely. And you know what'll happen? It'll be Darnell Mooney next to him, Dave Montgomery, and they'll start doing it too. I could completely see it. 100%.
Yeah. And it might that might require them to win the game because you're really only doing that if you're walking.
You can't pull that unless victory is in hand. You can't do that unless it's all right, screw you. I just won this game. Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean.
If it cuts the lead to 21-14, you can't be doing that. That's can't have. Yeah. It has to be either a go ahead or a dagger. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. All right, what do you got?
All right. So, I think you know where I'm going to go. This is
Cole Kmet scores a touchdown. Is that
first touchdown of the Bears season. Justin Fields to Cole Kmet.
First one?
I think first one of the season. Justin Fields to Cole Kmet. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know what the score will be, but first Bears touchdown of the year is going to be Justin Fields passing touchdown to Cole Kmet. I think they're going to really hammer home that this is a tight receiving tight end. He's the number 2 option here, and build off that Browns preseason game. Get him involved. Here we go. Now we go. I think it's going to be Cole Kmet receives is the receiver on the Bears' first passing touchdown of the year.
Because you would choose him. And real quick, I'm looking at FanDuel. I'm just looking at it. I'm trying to see what the odds are as Cole Kmet first time TD score in Bears.
It has to be 15-1.
No. If you guys remember, for those who've been listening to the show for a while, you'll remember this. And the Bears were actually up to plus 265 on the money line. I got them at plus 245. That's absurd. But if you guys remember, three years ago,
is it that long already? Yeah, because I was still living at home.
Yeah, so it was Cole Kmet's first season, and we had just introduced a betting segment on the show or something, and we will be doing some of that in the future. That's news for a later date. But we were making our best bets or something, and Jake was out of nowhere. Again, Cole Kmet was nothing at the time. He hadn't scored his first career touchdown yet. He's Cole Kmet to score the first touchdown. It could win you $2,000. And I was shut the hell up. I'm not doing it. Apparently, 2 listeners did it. Jake ended up winning 2 listeners over $2,000 because Cole Kmet's odds were through the roof. But Cole Kmet's odds to score the first touchdown, you were right.
I was close.
50-1. It's close. Plus 1,700.
17 to 1.
Wow.
17 to 1.
Wow. That's not bad value. That's not bad value at all. He's actually behind Darnell Mooney and Justin Fields as a rusher, the highest pick to score a touchdown for the Bears. Byron Pringle plus 2,600. Khalil Herbert plus 3,200. Wow. Okay.
17
Well,
to 1.
okay, so actually, there's a caveat to that. That's the first touchdown score of the game, not the first Bears touch. So would you put it down as first touchdown score of the game too? Like, do you think the Bears score first? I think they score first. I think they kind of have to. I think they're going to set the tone. I think they're going to score first.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Screw it. 17 to 1. Screw it. Yeah, why not? I'm just saying 32 to 1 for Khalil Herbert. Also not a bad look. I don't hate that.
It's really not bad. But Dave,
I think they're going to work Khalil Herbert in pretty liberally this season. Even if it's if it's 2 back sets, I think you're going to see him.
They might. I mean, 32 to 1 is lofty for a guy to just say, all right, Dave Montgomery just ran the ball 3 straight times in the red zone. Let's bring someone else in.
But if they do a 2-back set and he's a receiver?
That too. They're going to do a lot of that.
If you're inside the 10 or the 15?
Yeah. I'm intrigued. But I have one more defensively. Right. Everyone's been talking about Jaquan Brisker, rightfully so. He is going to be a candidate for me for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, I'll say it again just to promote the podcast because I got to do it. To Jaquan Brisker's trainer, who is on our podcast, who also trains Aaron Donald, said he thinks he can be a Hall of Famer. Thinks Jaquan Brisker can be a Hall of Famer. But I'm going with the other second-round rookie, Kyler Gordon. This guy can freaking play. I think he's going to just dominate on Sunday. I think he's going to get an interception. I can't remember, and I wanted to include this, but I didn't remember if it was true. Did Kyle Fuller get an interception in his first NFL game? I want to say
yes. I want to say yes.
I'm
almost positive he did.
Kyle Fuller interception.
It sounds very right. It sounds very correct.
I want to say that he did, but I don't know. But nonetheless, I think Kyler Gordon is going to have a great game, and I think he is going to get an interception. So that's my second bold prediction.
All right, love it. All right, let's get to game predictions. Let's get to score predictions for the game. The Bears are, of course, underdogs. Kevin told you they're worse than 2 to 1 underdogs at home in the first year of this regime. They are getting, last time it was 7 points. It is now. This is being super slow. Here we go. Okay, Bears are still, 6.5. So not 7, but 6.5. Bears are getting 6.5 points at home against the 49ers. I think the Bears cover. I do think that everything we talked about, the Justin Fields leap, the Luke Getsy first time seeing the offense, the 49ers having the injuries that they do at linebacker and in their secondary. I think that the Bears are going to make a point to try and rush Trey Lance, to try and make him make mistakes, to dare him to beat him with his arm. I think that is the game plan. I think the Bears are bought in. First Sunday game in 5 years. I think the Bears, unfortunately, I just do think they're outgunned talent-wise. I think the Bears do lose 21-17.
Okay, so a close game.
I do think it's close.
Under. Yeah. I hate to do it. I hate to be that guy. And Jake's already, if you can see it, he's ready to write me off already.
I have no idea where this is going now, actually.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bears to win. I'm picking the Bears to win the football game. Yeah. Well, look, let's be entirely honest here, right? Like, I am obviously optimistic, right? And you can look, if you want to be critical of that all you want, you like, not you, but people who listen, you can be critical of that. But the bottom line is, this isn't blind optimism. I am giving you reasons as to why I believe the Bears can win.
We just laid out for the last hour.
Exactly. So, like, I'm not just, I'm a Bears fan, I think they're going to win. No, like, there is a legitimate possibility the Bears are going to win this game for a multitude of reasons that are legitimate factors.
Fair. That was 2 years. I think it was the Titans game. Me and Chris Nano picked the Titans, and you were like, I think it was in the middle of the 6-game losing streak. You're like, I can't do it anymore. I got to pick the Titans. I can't do it. And then, like, right before sign off, you're like, you know what? No, I take it back. The Bears are going to win the game. And then they lost.
And they did not. Yeah. So I'd rather be convicting with my pick instead of, I think they could lose and then the last second choosing them to win. But, a short little synopsis of what I said for the last hour. Like, this is a team that, again, let's go beyond. For me, this is so far beyond X's and O's. This is so far beyond, talent-wise. Like,
there's narrative play here.
there's narrative play here, but I just think you're going to see a team that's just, they've been disrespected all offseason, and we've said it before, and it hasn't come to fruition about, oh, well, is it really going to fuel the fire? I think this is a team now, and you've built not just a coaching staff that's going to integrate this in the players, but you've built players who are receptive to this and who kind of align with this mentality that they're not going to be disrespected, and they're going to go out there and show you who the hell they are. And you have a lot of guys in the team who represent that mentality. And, that stadium, we already talked about it in the comparisons to 2017 when you were one of the worst teams in football playing the Rating FC Championships. They're going to be ready to go. The fans are going to be excited. The Bears are at the very least going to, I think, come out hot and make life hard. And at the end, talent may prevail for the 49ers, right? It's like Notre Dame, Ohio State last Saturday, right? New head coach, Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame, let's go out there and, punch the number 2 ranked team in the country in the mouth. And they did that. And then at the end of the day, they just weren't the talented team in Ohio State won. I could see that happening, but Jake, we're about to witness something that we just haven't seen in 4 years. We might witness offensive, prowess that we haven't seen in 4 years. And we just don't even know what that looks like. I hope so. We just don't know what that looks like. And if we get just an ounce of that, it's already massive improvements from the past 3 years. A crumb. The Bears are winning this football game 24-23. Justin Fields is scoring a touchdown with 28 seconds left, and he's counting to 8. And night 49ers. Bears win, start off the season 1-0. I just CBP film is on the same page. I don't know about 28-13. That's a little lofty, but I think the Bears are going to win this game. And you can chalk it up to optimism. No. Listen to the last a minute, 11 seconds of this podcast. An hour, 11 minutes, 20 seconds. I don't know what numbers are. I don't even know what universe we're in. The Bears are winning the game. That's all that matters. Drop mic. Let's go. Bear down. It's football season, and I'm ready to go.
There it is. That was the classic Kevin Lapka sign-off that you've all come to expect. If you're new here, then come to expect it, because that is a classic Kevin Lapka optimistic spin on the Bears game, no matter what. And I love it because it's week 1. Optimism is allowed and encouraged right now. We'll see where we're at in a couple of months. But hey, I'm on it too. I think that's going to be close. I do think that there's a path for the Bears to even win the game. Will I be surprised if they win? No, there's a path there. Do I think it'll happen? No, but hey, that's more optimistic than I was at the end of last season. So you have no choice but to take it. And also, you're listening to this podcast, so you chose to hear it on top of that. So that is that. Football is back. The Bears are back. In just a couple days, we will be in the start of the Matt Eberflus era. Justin Fields, second year. Let's go. Here we are. We made it, everybody. We made it. New Bears season. New season of Bears Nation podcast. We will be back on Monday to recap this game, go over everything that happened, go everything that we saw, that we didn't see, that we wish we had saw. We will be back in our new updated studio in person, so I can strangle Kevin for the dumb things he says in person, unless the Bears win, in which case, egg on my face. But we'll see you all Monday right here, Bears Nation podcast. We appreciate all of you for listening, for watching, for sticking with us through the offseason. If you're just parachuting in now, welcome. We welcome you with open arms. Lock in, strap in for a new Bear season. It's going to be a wild ride no matter what. We are happy you're here, happy to have you with us. Until Monday, everybody, take care. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.